After 3 years of being a daughter-in-law, I was kicked out of my house by my mother-in-law exactly 18 times. The first 17 times, I endured it. But the 18th time, when she dared to use my million-dollar design drafts to wipe up grease, while my husband was busy playing video games without even looking up, I decided to end it all and show their whole family who the real owner of this house was. The shattering of the glass on the cold marble floor wasn't enough to pull my husband, Kevin, out of his virtual battle on his phone screen. He just flinched a little, muttered something like, "Geez, what now?" and glued his eyes back to the screen, his thumbs flying across it. Outside, Los Angeles was in the middle of a winter storm. Heavy raindrops lashed against the glass windows, creating a gloomy scene that perfectly matched my mood. This was the 18th time my mother-in-law, Helen, pointed straight at the door and screamed in my face, "Get out of my sight. This house doesn't harbor a daughter-in-law like you." 18 times. A number I remembered in excruciating detail. The previous 17 times, I stayed silent, letting my tears of frustration fall. After each time, Kevin would grab my arm with his familiar refrain. "Come on, honey, Mom's getting old. Just bear with her a little. She says things, but she doesn't mean any harm." And I had endured it. Endured it for 3 years since the day I stepped into this family as a bride. But this 18th time was different. Human tolerance has a limit, like a rubber band stretched too tight for too long. Eventually, it has to snap. It started at dinner. As usual, I came home from work and immediately rushed into the kitchen, cooking a proper meal for a family of 5. My in-laws, my husband and me, and my sister-in-law, Mia. Tonight's meal included sweet and sour ribs, and unfortunately, I had added a bit too much sugar. My mother-in-law took one bite and immediately spit it out. She glared at me, her voice shrill. "Are you trying to kill this whole family with sugar? You can't even cook a decent meal." I stayed silent, intending to stand up and make something else, but she didn't stop there. She stood up abruptly and marched straight into my home office. That room was my only private space in this sprawling villa, where I poured my heart and soul into my work as a design director. On the desk were the drafts for a luxury resort project in Maui that I had stayed up several nights in a row to complete. It was my biggest project to date, worth millions of dollars. It was my reputation, my career. And then, right before my eyes, my mother-in-law casually grabbed that precious stack of drafts, crumpled up a page, and used it to wipe up a smear of grease from the plate of ribs on the dining table. As she wiped, she muttered, "So much scrap paper, and you don't even know how to clean it up, leaving it everywhere cluttering the house." A freezing chill ran down my spine. All the sounds around me seemed to stop. All that was left was the image of the pristine white paper, with my meticulous design lines being stained by yellow grease. I looked over at Kevin, my husband, the man I shared my bed with. He was still sitting there, eyes glued to his phone screen, wearing earbuds, completely unaware or perhaps totally uncaring about what was happening. His apathy in that moment hurt me even more than my mother-in-law's actions. "What are you doing, Mom?" My voice rang out, no longer trembling with endurance, but strangely calm. Helen, startled, turned to look at me, her expression still full of defiance. "What am I doing? I'm cleaning up your trash. Look at yourself, always burying your head in these useless papers. You can't even manage a meal for your husband and family. What kind of useless woman are you?" "That is my work. It's $1 million project. It's my blood, sweat, and tears for months," I said, enunciating every word. "Millions or billions, I don't care." She threw the crumpled paper on the floor. "This house belongs to my son. You married into this family, so you must fulfill your duties. If you can't do it, then get out." Right at that moment, Kevin lost his game. He frustratingly tossed his phone onto the sofa, looked up at his mother and me, and used his familiar tone. "All right, what's the big deal that you two have to yell? Mom, go rest. And you, clean this up and we'll talk." Talk? What else was there to talk about? Over the past 3 years, we had talked countless times. Every time, he would promise, "I'll talk to Mom, give Mom some more time, I'm her only son." But then everything remained exactly the same, or even got worse. My endurance only emboldened them to push further. They assumed that I had to endure, to sacrifice, because I was the daughter-in-law, because I loved Kevin. But today, that love seemed completely dead. I looked at the man in front of me, the one I had loved so deeply. Now, I only saw a weak, irresponsible, and selfish coward. I looked at the woman glaring at me, the one I had tried my best to fulfill my filial duties for. Now, I only saw a domineering and unreasonable tyrant. I didn't say another word. I silently turned and walked upstairs. This time, I didn't cry. I knew exactly what I had to do. My silence surprised the whole family, but they didn't know it was the silence before a momentous decision that would completely alter my life and theirs. That night, the endurance that had lasted 3 years officially came to an end. The next morning, the air in the house was as heavy as lead. My father-in-law, Norman, sat at the dining table reading the newspaper, but his eyes kept darting towards me. My mother-in-law was lingering in the kitchen, deliberately clanging pots and pans to show her irritation. My sister-in-law, Mia, sat cross-legged on the sofa, tapping on her phone and giggling, occasionally throwing a mocking glance my way. Surely, they were all waiting to see what I would do. Perhaps they thought I would back down and apologize, like the 17 times before. Kevin, having slept soundly through the night, walked downstairs with a nonchalant face. Seeing me at the dining table, he approached, reaching out to touch my shoulder and offer soothing words, but I gently dodged him. I didn't want any physical contact from him anymore. After breakfast, when everyone was gathered in the living room, I knew it was time. I calmly walked up to my room, opened the safe, and took out a thick folder. It was the property deed, the official certificate of ownership. Holding it in my hands, I felt the weight of the truth and my impending freedom. I walked down to the living room and placed the folder on the glass coffee table. The soft thud was enough to draw everyone's attention. "What is this?" Helen asked, her voice full of suspicion. "Dad, Mom, Kevin, and Mia. Today, I have something important to clarify with all of you," I said, in a completely serious tone, devoid of any emotion. I opened the folder, flipping to the page with the owner's name on top. "This villa," I pointed to the clearly printed text, "is under my name alone, Penelope Hayes. This is my personal property, acquired before Kevin and I got married." The living room fell into a dead silence. Norman stopped reading his newspaper, his glasses sliding down his nose. Helen's jaw dropped, her eyes wide open, staring at the deed. Mia stopped tapping on her phone, her mocking expression turning into utter bewilderment. Kevin was the first to react. He stammered, Are you joking? This house belongs to both of us." "It doesn't belong to both of us. It belongs solely to me," I corrected him coldly. "The money to buy this house came partly from my parents and partly from my own savings after years of working. The entire monthly mortgage has also been paid from my salary. Legally, this house has absolutely nothing to do with you or your family. When you said you wanted to bring your parents from your hometown to live with us so we could take care of them, I thought it was the right thing to do. But after everything that has happened over the past 3 years, I don't think I can take it anymore." My words were like a bucket of cold water poured over their complacency. For 3 years, they had lived in this house, enjoyed all its amenities, and always assumed it was their son's property. Helen constantly bragged to the neighbors that her talented son had bought a villa in this upscale Calabasas neighborhood. Now, that lie had been exposed in the most ruthless way possible. "No, that's impossible!" Helen shrieked, her voice returning to its familiar shrill pitch. "You're lying. You tricked my family. Kevin, say something. Did she trick you, son?" Kevin's face was ashen. He looked at me, then at the deed, unable to utter a word. He knew I was telling the truth. Before we got married, I had made it clear to him about the origin of the house, and he had happily agreed, even promising to help me build our home together. But perhaps he had forgotten, or deliberately chosen to forget that truth to save face for his family. You deceitful woman." Helen pointed her finger at my face, her body shaking with anger. "You calculated all of this, didn't you? Are you trying to steal my family's assets?" I burst into a bitter laugh. "Steal? Mom, I can't steal what already belongs to me. For 3 years, I let your family live here. I provided for my in-laws. I took care of your children. I fulfilled my duties as a daughter-in-law, but what did I get in return? Disrespect, criticism, and being kicked out of my own house 18 times. I stood up, looking each of them straight in the eye. I have endured enough. I do not want to continue living like this. I suppressed a sigh and delivered my final decision. I am giving your family 3 days. 3 days to pack your belongings and leave this house. After 3 days, I will change all the locks. I hope you will cooperate so we don't have to make things difficult for each other. With that, I picked up the deed, turned, and walked upstairs, leaving behind a trail of shock, anger, and panic. The curses from my mother-in-law, the screams from my sister-in-law, and the terrifying silence from my father-in-law and husband echoed from below. But none of it affected me anymore. As my bedroom door slammed shut, I also closed the door on 3 years of humiliation. The 3 days I gave them to move out passed in a suffocatingly tense atmosphere. They didn't pack anything. Instead, they used every method to pressure me. My mother-in-law went from crying and recounting how she raised Kevin to cursing me as an ungrateful wretch. Mia, my sister-in-law, kept banging on my door, hurling nasty insults. My father-in-law remained silent, but his glare was full of malice. Kevin was the only one who tried to talk to me. He constantly knocked on my door, sent texts, and called, "Penny, open the door. Can we talk? Please don't do this. The neighbors will laugh at us. Let's just solve this slowly." But I didn't answer. I knew what his "solve this slowly" meant. It meant I would have to soften my heart again, give in again, and then everything would go back to the way it was. This time, I absolutely wouldn't give him that chance. I started gathering the necessary documents to prepare for a divorce. I needed bank statements, receipts, and documents proving my separate assets. And it was while organizing those papers that I discovered another bitter truth. In Kevin's stack of bank statements, I accidentally stumbled upon a recurring wire transfer. Every month, exactly on the 5th, a flat sum of $1,000 was transferred from Kevin's account to his mother's account. This transaction had been going on continuously for the past 2 years, as regular as clockwork. I sat frozen on the floor, holding the statement, my hands trembling. 2 years, $1,000 a month, totaling $24,000, not a small amount. I recalled the times Kevin complained to me that his company was struggling and his bonuses were cut. I remembered the times he said we had to tighten our budget. I had believed him. I had cut my personal expenses, stopped buying new clothes, and limited expensive outings with friends. I had done everything to share the financial burden with my husband, while he secretly took money from our small family to subsidize his mother. What's worse, all household living expenses, from groceries to utilities to the cleaning service, were paid entirely by my salary. So, what was the money he gave his mother for? Fury and a sense of profound betrayal swelled inside me. It turned out I wasn't just an unpaid maid in this house, but also an ATM to serve my husband's selfishness and my mother-in-law's greed. But the shocks didn't stop there. That afternoon, as I was trying to calm myself down, I received a text from Linda, a kind neighbor who lived nearby. She sent me some screenshots from the neighborhood's group chat. In the chat, my mother-in-law was lamenting to everyone. "It's so miserable, everyone. My family is truly cursed. My son is gentle and talented, but he married a worthless wife. They've been married for 3 years and still haven't had a child. I took her to doctors everywhere, bought all kinds of medicine, and still nothing. The doctor said her ovaries have issues. It's very hard for her to conceive. My family line is going to end right here, guys." Reading those words, I felt the blood in my veins freeze. Not only was she bad-mouthing me behind my back, but she was bringing up the topic of children, a sensitive and private matter, to mock me publicly. She painted me as a barren woman who couldn't have kids in the eyes of everyone. Meanwhile, the truth was that my husband and I had agreed to wait a few more years until our careers were more stable before having children. That evening, Kevin knocked on my door again. This time, I opened it. I couldn't stay silent any longer. Seeing me, he looked overjoyed and stepped forward to hug me. "You're finally talking to me. I knew you." I shoved 2 things in his face: the bank statement and my phone open to the screenshots of his mother's group chat messages. "Explain this," I demanded, my voice calm but chilling. Kevin looked at them, and all the color drained from his face. He stammered, fumbling for words. This is. I just wanted to give Mom a little pocket money. She doesn't have an income at home. I felt bad for her. Felt bad? $1,000 a month. And you call it pocket money? Where did you get the money when you constantly told me your company was struggling? Do you know how much I had to scrimp and save? I interrogated him. Kai, I'm sorry. I meant to tell you, but I was afraid you'd be upset. He offered a feeble excuse. Afraid I'd be upset? And what about this? I pointed at the phone screen. Your mother has been going around telling everyone I'm infertile. Did you not know about this either? Or do you agree with her? No, it's not like that. Kevin hastily waved his hands. Mom's getting old. She just says crazy things. Don't take it to heart. She's probably just anxious for a grandchild. I'll talk to her again. Talk to her again? How many times have you said that, Kevin? Have you ever truly stood by my side and protected me, even once? Or, in your eyes, will I always be an outsider, while your mother and your family are everything? Kevin lowered his head in silence. His silence was the clearest answer. In this marriage, I had lost. I lost to my husband's spinelessness and his family's outrageous behavior. But I wouldn't let myself lose pathetically. I would take back everything that belonged to me. The 3-day deadline had passed, but my husband's family showed no signs of moving out. They thought that if they just dug their heels in and ignored what I said, I would eventually concede. They were too used to my concessions. But this time, they were dead wrong. On the morning of the 4th day, I called a law firm recommended by my best friend. I laid out the entire situation to attorney Sarah Turner, a sharp and experienced woman. After listening, Sarah advised me on the necessary legal steps to formally evict them. She also advised me to stay calm, avoid direct conflict, and gather more evidence of their behavior. While I was on the phone with the lawyer, Mia, my sister-in-law, kept pacing back and forth in front of my door, muttering provocative insults. What a ruthless, cold-blooded bitch, taking the house, and now planning to call a lawyer to kick her in-laws out. Absolutely shameless. I ignored her. I knew engaging with them now was a waste of time. I needed to act rationally and strategically. That afternoon, while I was preparing a simple meal for myself, the tragedy unfolded. Mia came sprinting down the stairs, pale as a ghost, screaming, "Kevin, Penny, Mom. Mom drank poison and tried to kill herself." Before I could even process it, Kevin dashed out of his room and ran upstairs. I heard him scream in terror, "Mom, Mom, wake up." This was followed by crying and the loud commotion of calling 911. My father-in-law also ran up, and the whole house fell into chaos. I stood still in the kitchen, not feeling a shred of panic, only a cold skepticism. I knew what kind of person my mother-in-law was. She loved herself more than anything else in the world. There was no way she would foolishly seek death. This was undoubtedly another one of her dramatic acts. The ambulance arrived quickly. They loaded Helen onto the stretcher. Kevin and Mia went with her, while Norman stayed behind. He paced around the living room, looking incredibly worried. But when he saw me, his eyes flashed with hatred. "If anything happens to your mother, I won't let you off the hook." He gritted his teeth. I didn't reply. I just quietly changed my clothes and hailed an Uber to the hospital. I needed to be there, not because I was worried, but to see how far they would take this charade. Arriving at the emergency room, I found an even more chaotic scene than at home. My mother-in-law was lying on a hospital bed, her eyes shut tight, but her mouth was still groaning. Kevin and Mia were kneeling beside her, crying hysterically. They were telling the doctors and anyone who would listen about how horribly I had treated my mother-in-law, pushing her to the brink. "It's her! It's my wife who drove my mother to this," Kevin yelled, pointing at me the moment I walked in. "Just because she wants to take the house, she heartlessly pushed my mother to her death." All eyes in the ER turned toward me. Some were sympathetic to them, some accusatory, some curious. I maintained a calm demeanor. I walked straight up to the attending physician, a middle-aged man who looked quite serious. "Doctor," I spoke clearly, loud enough for everyone around to hear, "could you please tell our family exactly what my mother ingested and what her current condition is. Is her life in danger? The doctor looked at me, then over to my wailing family members. He frowned slightly. Family members, please calm down. We pumped her stomach and ran the necessary tests. The patient shows no signs of poisoning. The substance the patient drank, according to the bottle the family brought in, was not poison. It was just a liquid, vitamin C supplement. Her health is perfectly stable. There is nothing to worry about. The doctor's words hit my in-laws like a bolt of lightning. Kevin and Mia's crying stopped instantly. My mother-in-law, supposedly in a coma on the bed, slightly opened one eye to peek. The people around us started whispering and pointing. The looks they gave my family shifted from sympathy to disdain and mockery. Vitamin C, I repeated, deliberately emphasizing the words. And here I thought Mom actually drank poison. You gave the whole family quite a scare. Thank goodness you're okay, Mom. I turned to look at my mother-in-law. She quickly squeezed her eyes shut again, pretending not to hear anything. Kevin and Mia turned beet red, wanting the floor to swallow them whole. Their clumsy act had been exposed in the most humiliating way possible. They had tried to use a fake suicide to pressure and smear me, but ended up making themselves the laughingstock of the room. I knew that from this moment on, the war between us would leave no room for mercy. After their botched performance at the hospital, my husband's family returned home in a shameful silence. There was no more cursing or crying, just resentful glares thrown my way. They probably realized their tired old tricks no longer worked on me. Kevin avoided me. He couldn't look me in the eye, just sulked in his room, probably digesting the embarrassing reality that his mother had turned the whole family into a joke. That night, I was working in my room when Kevin knocked. He walked in holding a warm glass of milk, his face full of remorse. Drink this so you can sleep well. About today, I apologize on Mom's behalf. However, I was cautious and didn't drink it. I secretly had it tested later, and it turned out to be just normal milk, no strange substances. I didn't look at him, my eyes still glued to my computer monitor. You don't need to apologize for anyone. You should ask yourself if you've done the right thing. Kevin set the milk on the desk. He sat on the edge of the bed, his voice sad. Penny, I know you're angry, but she's still my mother. Can you not escalate things further? We are still a family. A family? I spun my chair around to look him dead in the eye. A family where the husband secretly funnels money to his mother behind his wife's back, where the mother-in-law goes around claiming the daughter-in-law is barren, and where the whole family stages a fake suicide to frame me. You call that a family, Kevin? He hung his head, unable to argue. His silence only deepened my disappointment. Right then, his phone, resting on the desk next to the milk, lit up. A WhatsApp message notification appeared on the lock screen. The sender's name was Nora, coworker, and a short preview popped up. Are you home yet? I miss you so much. My heart skipped a beat. Nora. I knew her, a new, young, pretty employee in Kevin's department, who always blatantly showed her admiration for him. I had felt a slight unease about their relationship before, but I had brushed it off, telling myself not to be paranoid. It turns out a woman's intuition is never wrong. Kevin noticed me staring at his phone. He panicked and quickly snatched it up, but it was too late. I had seen everything. Who just texted you? I asked, my voice terrifyingly calm. Oh, nothing. Just a coworker asking about some work stuff, he replied dismissively, nervously swiping away the notification. I didn't say anything else. I just looked at him with an icy, piercing stare. Unable to withstand my gaze, he hurriedly stood up. Well, you should get some sleep. I'm gonna go watch some football. He fled as fast as a thief, caught red-handed. After the living room door clicked shut, I finally allowed myself to exhale. So this was the deep-seated reason for his apathy and spinelessness. He already had someone else to care for, someone else to protect. All the puzzle pieces fit together perfectly. I didn't cry. My tears had dried up long ago. Instead, a plan began to form in my mind. I needed evidence. I couldn't just rely on a fleeting text message. I waited until near midnight, when I was sure Kevin was fast asleep on the living room sofa after a few beers watching the game. I quietly slipped out of my room. His phone was sitting right there on the coffee table. I tiptoed closer. Luckily, he hadn't changed his passcode. I unlocked it, my heart pounding. I opened WhatsApp and clicked on the chat with Nora, coworker. What I read was worse than I had imagined. It wasn't just words of longing, but photos of them together on trips where he had lied to me, saying he was on business, promises of a future without me, and derogatory, insulting things he said about me to her. My wife is getting old and difficult. I'm sick of going home and looking at her face. Just bear with it a little longer. I'll divorce her, and we can be together. I used my own phone to carefully take pictures of the entire chat history, every text, every photo. I forwarded them all to my backup email. Once done, I erased all traces from his phone and gently placed it back exactly where it was. I returned to my room, feeling hollow, but my mind was remarkably clear. Now, I held the sharpest weapon. I wouldn't use this trump card to pressure Kevin just yet. I would save it for the precise moment to deal a fatal blow to him and his entire family. The next morning, I called Lily, my best friend. Lily was the complete opposite of me. If I was quiet and enduring, she was straightforward, fierce, and never let anyone push her around. Listening to me recount everything over the phone, from the ruined drafts to the fake suicide and the proof of infidelity, I just found Lily stayed silent. When I finished, she said one short sentence: "Stay in the house. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Exactly 30 minutes later, Lily showed up at my door. She wasn't alone. She was with another woman. The woman was in her early 30s, wearing a sharp business suit with piercing eyes and a highly professional aura. This is attorney Sarah Turner, a friend of my sister's. She specializes in complex divorce cases. Lily introduced her. I invited Sarah and Lily into my home office, the only place in the house where we could talk privately. I showed Sarah all the evidence I had gathered: the deed, the bank statements of Kevin's transfers to his mom, the screenshots of the neighborhood group chat, and the photos of Kevin's cheating texts. Attorney Turner examined everything meticulously. She didn't look surprised. She had probably seen enough of these twisted dramas. Looking up, her voice was decisive. "Hello, Penny. Based on what you've provided, the advantage is entirely on your side. The house is a premarital asset. You have full rights to it. Your husband has committed adultery and secretly dissipated marital assets, his salary, during the marriage. Your mother-in-law has committed defamation, slandering your reputation. With this evidence, the divorce and asset division will heavily favor you. You can demand that Kevin return the entire amount he gave to his mother." Prior to this, Attorney Turner had also proactively notified the local police precinct to prevent any potential domestic violence. Hearing Sarah's clear analysis, I felt much more reassured. Lily grabbed my hand and squeezed it. "See, you have nothing to fear. Go all the way. Sarah and I have your back." Sarah continued. "However, to make everything bulletproof, we need to gather more evidence systematically. What you have is great, but we need undeniable proof for court. I suggest you do the following. First, install hidden security cameras in common areas like the living room and kitchen. They must have audio. This will capture their actions and words. Second, from now on, secretly record any important conversations with your husband or his family. Third, absolutely avoid physical altercations. You must remain calm so they reveal their true nature on their own. But is installing cameras inside the house legal? I asked nervously. You are installing them inside a house you solely own to protect your property and personal safety. It is entirely legal, Sarah affirmed. Our goal is to make them leave voluntarily and force Kevin to sign the divorce papers with terms most favorable to you. We will prepare everything so that if it goes to court, we will undoubtedly win. That conversation with Lily and Attorney Turner felt like a breath of fresh air to my chaotic mind. For the first time in days, I felt I wasn't alone. I had my friends and the law on my side. I was no longer a submissive daughter-in-law, but a woman standing up to fight for her rights and dignity. That very afternoon, following my lawyer's advice, I contacted a security firm to install a discreet camera system in the house. I also bought a compact audio recorder that could easily slip into a pocket. My counterattack plan had officially launched, no longer impulsive reactions, but carefully calculated, methodical steps. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to face it all. Once the camera system was installed, every move my in-laws made was under my surveillance. I could review everything on my phone. And just as expected, they weren't sitting idle. Especially Mia, my bratty sister-in-law. Since she couldn't provoke me directly, because I was always locked in my room, she started engaging in petty, highly irritating behavior. The cameras caught her sneaking into my room while I was at work, rummaging through my vanity, and stealing expensive lipsticks and my favorite perfumes. She didn't just take them for herself. She invited her friends over, pointed at my room, and bragged as if it were a conquest. My sister-in-law is loaded. Guys, look at all this high-end stuff. Just take whatever. She won't even notice. Her voice rang clearly through my phone's speaker. Watching those videos, I didn't feel a hint of anger, just sheer amusement at her pettiness and greed. I didn't make a scene. I just quietly saved all the clips as evidence. I considered the cost of those items as the price I paid to expose her true colors. But Mia didn't stop at petty theft. Seeing that I remained silent, she decided she needed to do something bigger to humiliate me. That day, I was in a crucial meeting with my company's executive board, presenting the progress on the Maui Resort project, the very project my mother-in-law had partially ruined. I had worked day and night to restore it. Right in the middle of my confident presentation to the CEO and vice presidents, Mia suddenly appeared at the conference room door. She was dressed garishly, wearing heavy makeup, and barged right in despite my secretary's attempts to stop her. "Penelope Hayes, get out here," Mia shrieked, pointing her finger right at my face in front of everyone's stunned eyes. The conference room fell dead silent. All eyes darted between me and the uninvited intruder. I tried to stay calm, signaled my secretary to call security, and turned to Mia, keeping my tone professional. "This is a corporate boardroom. If you have personal matters to discuss, please wait until my meeting is over." "Personal matters? This isn't a personal matter," Mia sneered, her voice venomous. "I'm here to expose my hypocritical sister-in-law to everyone. Do you guys know? She's rich, lives in a villa, drives a luxury car, but she ruthlessly kicked her husband's entire family out onto the street. Her elderly, helpless in-laws, she didn't even spare them. Ha! How can a heartless, bridge-burning person like this be a director here?" Mia's slanderous words sparked whispers around the room. A few people looked at me with scrutinizing eyes. I knew her goal was to destroy my reputation and my career. She wanted to ruin me completely. But I didn't flinch. I looked straight at Mia, then swept my gaze across the executives sitting there. I didn't explain myself. I didn't argue. I simply said one sentence, clear and authoritative. "Madam CEO, members of the board, I apologize for allowing a personal issue to disrupt this meeting. Regarding my family matters, I trust the law will provide a fair judgment. For now, I request permission to continue my presentation on the project. This is the culmination of my team's hard work, and it is far more important than any fabricated lies." My composure and professionalism seemed to work. Mrs. Torres, the CEO, a woman known for being strict and impartial, gave a slight nod. "Very well. Where is security? Please escort this young woman out." The meeting continued. Security arrived quickly and dragged a screaming Mia out of the room. I finished my presentation excellently. Despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me, I didn't allow myself to break down, especially not at work. After the meeting, Mrs. Torres called me into her private office. I thought she would reprimand me, but instead, she just looked at me and said, "Your crisis management today was excellent, Penny. I trust a woman of your caliber will handle her family issues. Don't let trivial matters affect your work." The CEO's words offered me some comfort, but I knew Mia's stunt today was just a warning. They wouldn't give up easily, and neither would I. A few days after the incident at the office, my in-laws seemed to have quieted down, but I knew this was just the calm before the storm. I continued my work, simultaneously gathering more evidence under Attorney Turner's guidance. I copied all the video clips of Mia and my mother-in-law's actions onto a separate hard drive, and then my worst fear materialized. Late one weekend evening, while I was working overtime at the office, my phone received an alert from my home security system. A motion sensor had detected a break-in. I frantically opened the app. My heart clenched when I saw Mia and a strange man on the screen, using a crowbar to pry open my front door. I immediately dialed 911, reported the break-in, and gave them my exact address. Then I called Attorney Turner to update her. Sarah advised me to stay put at the office and not to go home alone to avoid any danger. I should let the police handle it. Through the camera feed, I watched the entire event unfold. After struggling for a while, they forced the door open and entered the house. They didn't rummage through much. They headed straight for my home office, where I kept a heavy metal safe. In reality, I had cleared all important documents and cash out of that safe days ago. It was completely empty. I left it there as bait. Mia and the man grunted and strained to carry the heavy safe out of the house. Just as they managed to load it onto a waiting pickup truck outside, police cruisers swarmed the house. They were caught red-handed with the stolen property. The next morning, I was called to the police station. Mia and her accomplice were there. Seeing me, Mia didn't show an ounce of fear. Instead, she glared at me with pure hatred. At the station, she claimed it was her brother's house. She said she was just borrowing the safe because she thought I was hiding their shared marital assets inside. Her contradictory excuses and lies couldn't fool the detectives. However, because the safe wasn't of high value and was empty, and with my in-laws bailing her out, Mia was only issued a citation and released. I had expected this outcome, and it was exactly what I wanted. I didn't want to throw her in jail right away. I was saving this trump card for a much bigger game. I thought that after being arrested, Mia would be scared straight. But I vastly underestimated her stupidity and recklessness. That very evening, I received a call from an unknown number. Having a bad premonition, I turned on my phone's call recorder before answering. It was Mia's shrill, threatening voice on the other end. "Penelope Hayes, listen carefully. I have your safe. I bet there's a lot of interesting stuff in here, huh? Property deeds, cash, jewelry." I stayed silent, letting her talk. "I'm giving you two choices. 1, transfer half of the villa to Kevin, which means to my family. 2, I'll get someone to crack this safe open, see what's inside, and leak everything onto the internet so the whole world can see how you hide assets. Don't blame me for being cruel when that happens." I replied calmly, without a trace of fear. "Oh, really? Go ahead and open it. I'm actually curious to know what's inside myself." My calmness seemed to catch Mia off guard. She snapped. "Stop bluffing. I'm not playing games with you. You have 24 hours to think about it. If I don't hear from you tomorrow about transferring the deed, don't blame me." With that, she hung up. I smiled and turned off the phone. The recording of this extortion attempt, along with the break-in footage and the police report, had now become ironclad evidence. Mia had single-handedly handed me a weapon of mass destruction, and I wouldn't hesitate to use it when the time came. I already had the winning hand in this chess match. After Mia's extortion call, I knew I couldn't wait any longer. They had crossed the line, and I needed to end this decisively. I looked at the calendar on my desk. A date circled in bright red caught my eye. It was my 3-year wedding anniversary with Kevin, just 1 week away. An idea flashed in my mind. What could be more ironic and fitting than dismantling their entire charade on that exact anniversary? I started drafting a detailed plan. I needed a confession straight from Kevin's mouth. Those text messages proved the affair, but I needed him to admit to the other schemes he was hiding. The only way to do that was to catch him off guard. Gathering my courage, I typed out a text to Kevin, something I hadn't done in days. "Kevin, I'm so exhausted. I've been thinking a lot lately, and maybe I was partly in the wrong too. Can we meet up this weekend to talk? I want to find a solution for both of us." Almost immediately, Kevin replied, "Really, honey? I knew you still loved me." "Yes. Where do you want to meet? What time should I pick you up?" Seeing his overjoyed messages, I felt nothing but bitterness. He completely failed to notice the shift in my tone, simply assuming I had thought things through and surrendered. His blind confidence was the exact weakness I would exploit. "You don't have to pick me up. I'll drive myself. Let's meet at 7 p.m. on Saturday at the Oak Room. I want to eat somewhere quiet." I had chosen a high-end steakhouse with private dining rooms, perfect for my plan. "Okay, my love, I'll make a reservation right now, he replied, adding a heart emoji. I set my phone down, my heart utterly still. I no longer felt pain or love. The only thing inside me was the absolute determination to get justice for myself. I called Lily and told her about my plan. Are you sure about this, Penny? Lily asked worriedly. Meeting him alone. What if he does something to you? Don't worry, I've prepared everything, I reassured her. I need you to do me a favor. On my anniversary, I need a moving company to show up at my address at exactly 9 a.m. And I need Attorney Turner to be there at the same time. Okay, leave that to me, Lily replied without hesitation. You be careful, okay? Remember to bring the voice recorder. I know, I said, my hand instinctively tightening around the small device in my pocket. This Saturday, I would get what I needed, and 1 week later, this play would come to an end. Over the next few days, I acted as if I genuinely wanted to reconcile. I stopped locking my bedroom door, and occasionally came downstairs for dinner, even though the atmosphere was incredibly stiff. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law looked triumphant, thinking I had been broken by their tactics. Only Kevin was genuinely happy. He constantly checked on me and bought small gifts to win me over. Watching his fake attentiveness, I just wanted to laugh. He had no idea that every word and action of his now would only make his eventual downfall that much more pathetic. On Saturday evening, I arrived at the Oak Room right on time. Kevin was already waiting in a private dining room he had booked. He looked sharper than usual, and there was a bouquet of deep red roses on the table. For you, it's been a while since I bought you flowers. He smiled the smile I once thought was the warmest in the world. I accepted the flowers, softly said thank you, and sat down. My audio recorder was already turned on, discreetly tucked inside my purse, sitting neatly on the chair beside me. The dinner proceeded in a seemingly peaceful atmosphere. Kevin kept serving me food and telling funny stories from work, trying to make me laugh. I played along, smiling and replying softly. I played the role of a wife exhausted by war, just looking to find some peace. As the meal was winding down, I knew it was time to get to the point. I put down my fork and looked at Kevin, my voice tinged with sadness. Kevin, I'm sorry for making things so difficult these past few days. Kevin quickly grabbed my hand. It's okay, honey. I understand. It's my fault, and my family's fault, for not considering your feelings. I've thought it over carefully, I continued, staring off into the distance. If we go back to how things were, what are we going to do about your parents? They're getting older, and living together like this forever just won't work. My question seemed to scratch exactly where he was itching. He sighed, looking a bit troubled, but couldn't hide his relief that I had brought it up first. You're right, that's been giving me a headache too. Actually, I already have a plan. What kind of plan? I asked, feigning curiosity. He hesitated for a moment. Then, as if making up his mind, he said, I was thinking, our house. It's worth over $2 million now. I plan to take out a home equity loan for about $500,000. That's enough to buy a nice condo nearby, for my parents to retire in. That way, they have their own place, and we have our privacy. What do you think? Even though a violent storm was raging inside me, I maintained a calm facade. Mortgage my house, but that's my asset. I know, but look, we're husband and wife. Your assets are my assets too. I promise I'll work hard to pay off the bank loan. All you have to do is sign the papers, he said persuasively. So what about Nora? I asked abruptly, changing the subject completely. Kevin froze, his wine glass halting in midair. Why? Why are you bringing her up? I know everything, Kevin, I said, letting my voice tremble slightly, perfectly playing the part of a heartbroken, betrayed wife. I just want the truth from you. How far has it gone between you and her? Perhaps because of the alcohol, or perhaps because he thought I had accepted everything. Kevin let out a heavy sigh. I'm sorry, Penny. I was wrong. Nora and I, it was just a fleeting crush. I admit we saw each other for a while, but you're the only one in my heart. I promise I will cut ties with her completely. Can you forgive me this one time? Do you promise? I promise. I swear. He raised his hand, looking incredibly sincere. I nodded, lightly wiping away a tear that had taken a lot of effort to produce. All right, I believe you. Give me some time to think about the home equity loan. On our anniversary, I'll give you my final answer. Kevin was thrilled. He had no idea that his entire confession from the affair to the scheme to hijack my house had been recorded crystal clear. Dinner ended, and I had what I needed. Now, I just had to wait for the final day of judgment. The last few days before our anniversary passed in a state of fake peace. After our reconciliation dinner, Kevin firmly believed he had appeased me. He treated me with much more care and attention, unaware that every action just disgusted me further. I kept a calm face, waiting for the right moment. My first order of business was a preemptive strike. I couldn't let them have any chance to ruin my plan. I called Lily. Hey, I think we need to change the locks immediately. I don't want any mishaps on the day. Lily agreed instantly. That afternoon, she brought over a trusted locksmith. Taking advantage of the fact that my in-laws were all out, we changed all the physical locks and the passcode to the electronic gate. Now, only Lily and I knew the new passcode. Control of the house was entirely in my hands. I spent the remaining time systematically organizing all my evidence: the audio recordings, the videos, the photos, the bank statements. Everything was backed up multiple times on hard drives and cloud storage, ready to be deployed. And then, on the night before the big day, as I was double-checking everything, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. My heart skipped a beat. I opened it. It was a photo, an ultrasound image of a very early-stage fetus, complete with clear medical indicators. Below the photo was a short but highly provocative message. Hi, sister-in-law, my baby and Kevin say hello. Looks like our family is growing. So happy, right? I didn't even need to guess who the sender was. Nora. She had launched her final strike, a blow she thought would completely break me. She wanted to show me that not only did she have my husband's love, but she was carrying his child, something I didn't have. But she was wrong. Instead of pain or jealousy, I felt only supreme contempt. This photo, this message, didn't break me. In fact, it solidified my resolve. It was the final puzzle piece, the most damning proof of Kevin's deceit and betrayal. I calmly saved the photo and the message. This would be the most bitter, surprise gift I would bestow upon their entire family tomorrow. I looked out the window at the quiet Los Angeles night. I knew that after tonight, a massive storm was about to hit, and I was the one creating it. The morning of our third anniversary, Kevin woke up early, whistling happily. He put on a new suit, sprayed on expensive cologne, looking like a groom about to walk down the aisle. He hugged me from behind as I stood in front of the mirror. Happy anniversary, my beautiful wife. I booked a very romantic restaurant for tonight, and I've also set up an appointment with the bank guy. I just need your signature. I turned around and smiled at him, a polite, fake smile. Happy anniversary. You go on to work. We'll talk when you get home. He happily kissed my cheek and left, completely oblivious to the ice in my eyes. My in-laws and Mia also left shortly after, probably to go shopping to celebrate their impending victory. The house finally returned to its inherent quietness. At exactly 9 a.m., the doorbell rang. I went to the gate. Outside was a large moving truck from Star Movers, followed by Lily and Attorney Turner. Right on time, I smiled, greeting them. Of course, couldn't keep you waiting, Lily winked at me. I let the truck into the driveway. Under my direction, the movers got to work. They went straight up to the second floor, into my in-laws' room and Mia's room, and started professionally packing all their personal belongings into boxes. About an hour later, my mother-in-law and Mia returned, gleefully carrying large and small shopping bags. As soon as they stepped into the living room, they froze. They stared in shock as strangers carried their boxed-up belongings out the door. What is this? Helen stammered, the shopping bags dropping from her hands. Then, as if waking up, she lunged forward, her voice a screeching wail. What the hell are you doing? Who let you into my house? Penny, are you crazy? She tried to charge at the movers to grab her stuff back, but Lily and Attorney Turner stepped in her path. I walked down the stairs calmly. Mom, I am not crazy. I am simply taking back what belongs to me. The 3-day deadline expired 2 days ago. Today, I am asking you and your whole family to move out of my house." "You wouldn't dare," Mia screamed. "Let me call my brother and see if you still act so arrogant." "You don't need to call him," I said, holding the TV remote. "Before Kevin gets home, I have a few things I want to show you too." I pressed a button, and the large TV screen in the living room flickered to life. The first clip was the security footage showing Mia and Helen sneaking into my room to steal my cosmetics. Both their faces drained of color, but Helen still tried to argue. I just borrowed a few trinkets to use. Why are you making such a big deal out of it?" "Oh, and was this borrowed too?" I pressed a button to switch to an audio recording. Mia's shrill, threatening voice echoed through the living room. "I'm giving you two choices. 1. Transfer half of the villa. 2. I'll get someone to crack this safe open." Mia turned pale, swaying as if she might pass out. She never expected her extortion call to be recorded. Her mother also stood stunned, looking at her daughter in disbelief. The play had just begun, but its two lead actresses were already faltering. Just as Mia was trembling, unable to speak, Kevin and my father-in-law, Norman, walked in. They had probably received a frantic SOS call from Helen. Seeing the chaotic house with their belongings boxed up, Kevin exploded. "Penny, what the hell are you doing? I told you we would talk this out civilly. Stop this right now," he yelled, charging toward me. But I stepped back, standing next to Lily. This was the moment I had been waiting for. Talk civilly? Fine. Now that the whole family is here, let's talk this out once and for all. I signaled Lily. My best friend quickly connected her laptop to a projector I had set up earlier. The projector beamed onto the largest blank wall in the living room, turning it into a massive screen. "The show begins," I whispered. The first image to appear was the crystal-clear security footage showing Mia and a strange man prying open my front door, breaking in, and struggling to carry away the empty safe. Norman and Helen stared at their daughter in shock. Next, the screen went black, and only audio played. It was the recording from that fateful dinner at the Oak Room. Kevin's voice rang out loud and clear, admitting to his affair with Nora and his scheme to mortgage my house to get $500,000 for his parents. Kevin's face went from flushed with anger to deathly pale. He looked at me, his eyes filled with panic and disbelief. He couldn't fathom that the prey he thought was trapped was actually the hunter. But it wasn't over. The projector continuously flashed screenshots of the steamy WhatsApp chats between Kevin and Nora, the messages insulting me, the promises of their happy future together. And then, the final blow was struck. The ultrasound photo appeared, huge and clear on the wall. Next to it was Nora's highly provocative text message. The entire room sank into a deathly silence. All the evidence was laid bare, undeniable, indefensible. The fortress of lies they had painstakingly built over 3 years had shattered into dust in mere minutes. The terrifying silence was broken by a heavy thud. Kevin had collapsed to the floor, his knees hitting the cold marble. He looked up at me, his face streaked with tears, his voice cracking with despair. "Penny, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Please forgive me just this once." Helen, seeing her golden boy crumble and all her plans turn to ash, went insane. She let out a piercing shriek and lunged at me like a wounded beast. "You bitch! You ruined my son. I'll kill you." But before she could lay a finger on me, Lily and Attorney Turner stepped in to block her. The scuffle made the scene even more chaotic, and right in the middle of it, something unexpected happened. My father-in-law, Norman, a man who usually acted stoic and quiet, suddenly roared like a wild animal. His face flushed bright red, his eyes bloodshot. The pride of a man, the patriarch of the family, had been ruthlessly trampled by me. Hatred completely overtook his reason. "You venomous snake! You destroyed this family!" Fast as lightning, he spun around, grabbed a fruit knife from a nearby table, and charged at me. Everyone screamed in terror. I stood frozen, unable to react in time. Just as the knife was inches away from me, the front door burst open. 2 uniformed police officers rushed in. Attorney Turner had called them in advance to prepare for the worst-case scenario. One officer tackled Norman to the floor. The sound of the knife clattering against the marble echoed loudly. The other officer quickly restrained him, twisting his arms behind his back and cuffing him. Attorney Turner calmly stepped forward, presenting the prepared evidence. "Officers, here is evidence that Norman's family committed breaking and entering, theft, and extortion. And just now, in front of all of us, Norman committed assault with a deadly weapon. We request that you file a report and arrest him for processing under the law." As Norman was escorted out by the two officers, still cursing and swearing at me, Helen saw her husband being arrested and fainted on the spot. Mia slumped on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Kevin remained kneeling, his head bowed, his entire body shaking violently. Their empire, built on lies and greed, had completely collapsed. The chaotic scene in the living room seemed to have no end in sight. After fainting, Helen was eventually shaken awake by Mia and some of the movers. Opening her eyes to see her husband taken away and her son kneeling on the floor, she launched into her familiar act. She rolled around on the floor, crying and wailing about her miserable life, about the venomous daughter-in-law who had destroyed her family and left them homeless. But this time, no one played along with her performance. The police officers coldly told her to keep quiet. Attorney Turner stood with her arms crossed, her sharp gaze watching Helen like a clumsy comedian. I wasn't going to let this chaos drag on any longer. I knew I had to deliver one final blow, a blow that would ensure they could never raise their heads again, at least not in front of their relatives. I calmly took out my phone, opened my contacts, and found the Harper family clan group chat. This was the extended family chat where Helen constantly bragged about her brilliant son and her massive estate. I hit the group video call button. A few seconds later, the faces of my husband's aunts and uncles began popping up on the screen. They looked surprised to see me calling. "Oh, Penny, what's going on, dear?" an uncle asked. I didn't answer. I simply panned my phone camera slowly around the living room, their screens filled with images of half-packed cardboard boxes, movers standing by waiting, two police officers writing reports, Mia sitting on the floor crying her eyes out, Helen rolling around, throwing a tantrum, and finally, the image of Kevin kneeling, his whole body trembling. "Today is our 3-year wedding anniversary," I said calmly but clearly, ensuring everyone on the call could hear. "I'm calling to invite you all to share the joy with our family. This is everything your favorite son and daughter-in-law have built after 3 years. A cheating husband with a child out of wedlock, a sister-in-law who breaks into houses and extorts her sister-in-law, a mother-in-law who fakes suicide and spreads rumors that her daughter-in-law is barren, and a father-in-law who was just arrested for attacking someone with a knife." With every sentence I spoke, the faces on the phone screens morphed. From surprise and curiosity, they turned to shock, then deep embarrassment. Whispers started breaking out. They couldn't believe what they were seeing and hearing. The image of the wealthy, moral, model family that Helen had painted was smashed into pieces. "I won't take up any more of your time. Goodbye, aunts and uncles." I hung up, giving them no chance to question or comment. It was time for the curtain to fall. Attorney Turner walked over to Kevin and placed a stack of papers on the table. "Mr. Harper, these are the divorce papers and the asset division agreement. Miss Hayes agrees to an uncontested divorce. You will not receive any assets from this house, as it is Miss Hayes's separate property. Furthermore, you are required to repay the $24,000 you secretly funneled to your mother over the past 2 years, along with other expenses Miss Hayes bore, totaling $50,000. You have 2 years to pay it off. If you sign this, Miss Hayes will not press further charges." Kevin looked up, his lifeless eyes staring at the papers. He had no strength left to resist or bargain. It was all over. With trembling hands, he picked up the pen and signed his name on every page. Under police supervision, Helen and Mia were forced to pack the last of their belongings. They no longer dared to scream or curse, packing in humiliating silence. When the moving truck rolled out of the gates, taking away every trace of them, the house suddenly became incredibly peaceful. I stood alone in the middle of the living room, looking around the familiar space that now felt entirely different. An old chapter of my life had officially closed. The days that followed, I lived in the tranquility I had always longed for, The house was free from my mother-in-law's curses, my sister-in-law's vandalism, and the invisible presence of a spineless husband. I spent my time cleaning up, reorganizing my life and my work. I felt reborn, but I was naive to think they would give up so easily. About a week after they moved out, while I was preparing for a crucial meeting, Lily called me, her voice trembling with rage. "Penny, get online right now. Those bastards are at it again." I had a bad feeling. I opened Facebook, and messages and notifications flooded my screen. Friends and colleagues were tagging me in a post that was going viral. It was a post from Mia's account. The post was a tear-jerking story written in a deeply mournful tone. It told the tale of a wealthy but evil sister-in-law who, after being taken in and supported by her husband's family, tricked their son to steal his assets. It painted a picture of how terribly I treated my frail, elderly in-laws, culminating in me ruthlessly kicking them out onto the street without a penny. The story further fabricated that because I couldn't have children, I became jealous and resentful of other people's happiness. But the worst part wasn't the fabricated story. Accompanying the post was a highly sophisticated, edited video. It only showed clips of me raising my voice during the confrontation, spliced with footage of Helen crying and rolling on the floor. The audio was distorted, making my voice sound shrill and malicious. They had blurred everyone's faces except mine. Below the video, they brazenly posted my full name, my workplace, and even my personal cell phone number. The post immediately caused an uproar. The online community, gullible and easily led, quickly bought into the victim's story. Thousands of hateful, cursing comments flooded the post. "What a degenerate woman. Beautiful but so evil. Can't have kids so she acts out of jealousy. Boycott this bitch. Boycott her company." My phone started ringing incessantly. Strange numbers called, some just to hurl abuse. Others stayed silent and hung up. My inbox was overflowing with derogatory messages. At work, though no one said anything directly, I could feel the strange looks and the whispers behind my back. They had succeeded. They had turned me from the victim into the villain in the eyes of the public. They wanted to use mob pressure to destroy me, to drag me down into the mud with them. I sat in my office, staring at the computer screen displaying the venomous words aimed at me. And I knew the war wasn't over yet. The social media storm hit faster and harder than I anticipated. In just one day, the story of the ungrateful daughter-in-law had spread across tabloid sites and massive Facebook groups. My image and personal info were everywhere. I had to temporarily deactivate my social media and turn off my phone to focus. I didn't panic. My initial anger was quickly replaced by a cold, calculating mindset. They chose to play dirty, so I would respond with the truth. I called Lily and Attorney Turner, and we had an emergency meeting that very night. "They have committed public defamation and harassment. We can sue," Sarah said immediately after reading the post. "Of course we're gonna sue," Lily nodded, looking like she was ready for murder. But lawsuits take time. Meanwhile, Penny's reputation is being dragged through the mud every hour. We need to counterattack on the media front right now. Exactly, I agreed. I'm not going to write a long defensive post. Words carry no weight right now. I'm going to use their own method, video. But not an edited video. The truth. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in front of my computer and started doing what I did best: editing and visual storytelling. I gathered all the evidence I had. I didn't need to add or fabricate anything. I just needed to arrange it logically and irrefutably. I spent nearly the entire night finishing a 5-minute video. The video opened with footage of me sitting neatly in my home office, looking straight into the camera. I spoke calmly. "Hello everyone, I am Penelope, the main character in the ungrateful daughter-in-law story circulating on social media these past few days. I am not here to make excuses. I just want to show everyone the whole truth." Then, the screen transitioned. The video was divided into chapters with clear titles. Chapter 1. The Last Straw featured the video of my mother-in-law using my design drafts to wipe up grease. Chapter 2. The Lies played the audio recording of her spreading rumors that I was infertile. Chapter 3. The Clumsy Act showed the scene at the hospital ER, including the doctor's conclusion about the vitamin C. One by one, I released everything. The video of Mia stealing my cosmetics, the video of Mia and the man stealing the safe, the audio of the extortion call, the audio of Kevin's confession, and finally, Nora's ultrasound photo. Everything was the original version, uncut, uncensored. The next morning, I reactivated my profile. I posted the video with a single caption: "There is only one truth." To my ex-in-laws, who taught me an expensive lesson about human nature. I didn't need to ask friends to share it. The power of the truth had a terrifying viral reach of its own. My video was like a bomb detonating in the middle of the social media storm. The people who had been cursing me out after watching the video came back to apologize. Public opinion did a 180-degree turn. The wave of outrage was now aimed directly at my ex-husband's family. Mia's post received thousands of angry reactions and reports. Her account was quickly suspended. My video wasn't just shared on Facebook. Mainstream news outlets picked it up as a prime example of using social media for defamation. My counterattack was a spectacular success. Not only did I clear my name, but I turned my enemy's weapon into the very thing that destroyed them. The social media scandal didn't just cause a public uproar. It reached the upper management of my company. I had prepared myself for a difficult conversation with Mrs. Torres, the CEO I deeply respected. I worried that my personal drama had negatively impacted the company's image. But contrary to my expectations, when I walked into her office, Mrs. Torres looked at me with a completely different expression. It wasn't scrutiny or reprimand. It was admiration. "Sit down, Penny," she said warmly. "I saw your video. Very impressive." I was slightly taken aback. "Madam CEO, I apologize for letting my private matters cause such a stir and affect the company." Mrs. Torres waved her hand. "No, you did nothing wrong. On the contrary, how you handled the crisis is exactly what I want to talk about. Calm, rational, strategic, and delivering the decisive blow at the exact right moment. You not only protected your reputation, but turned a personal crisis into a testament to your capability. Penny, our corporation needs someone like you." She paused, looking me right in the eye. "The position of VP of Brand Strategy is currently vacant. This role requires not only design expertise, but a cool head to manage PR crises and protect and develop the corporate image. I can think of no one more suited for this role than you. Are you willing to take on this challenge?" Her offer left me stunned. I had never dared to dream of such a high position, but looking at the trust in her eyes, I knew this was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. It wasn't just recognition of my abilities. It was a fresh start after all the turbulence. "Madam CEO, I accept. I promise I won't let you down." I stood up and said clearly. My career entered a new chapter, and my new responsibilities swept me up. Endless meetings, strategies, and massive projects. During a meeting with a key partner to discuss an upcoming campaign, I met Vincent. He was the CEO of the partnering firm, a mature, elegant man with a warm smile. Throughout the meeting, I noticed him looking at me with a very specific gaze. After the meeting ended and most people had left, he approached me. "Hello, Miss Hayes. I'm Vincent. It's a pleasure to work with you." He extended his hand. "Hello, likewise." I shook it. He smiled slightly, a bit hesitant. "I know you from more than just work. I followed your story online. I truly admire your strength and intelligence." His straightforward compliment surprised me, making me a little shy. "Thank you. It was just a last resort. People only see the result, but I know what you had to go through to get that result. If you ever need help with anything, work or life, don't hesitate to let me know," he said, his voice sincere and his eyes full of warmth. That brief encounter left a deep impression on me. For the first time in a long while, I felt a man looking at me with genuine respect and admiration, not pity or curiosity. A quiet warmth began to kindle in my heart. A year passed by in the blink of an eye. My life had completely transformed. Under Mrs. Torres's mentorship and my relentless effort, I proved my worth in my new role. The brand campaigns I led were massive successes, solidifying the corporation's image. 3 months ago, I was officially promoted to Chief Operating Officer, becoming one of the youngest and most powerful female executives in the industry. My relationship with Vincent also progressed naturally and strongly. He wasn't pushy. He didn't make empty promises. He stood by my side, listening, sharing, and supporting every decision I made. He showed me what a love built on respect and understanding truly looks like. We hadn't talked about the distant future yet, but we both knew we had found our true partner. One late Friday afternoon, just as I finished a meeting and was getting ready to leave the office, my secretary told me someone was here to see me. He says he's an old acquaintance of yours. His name is Kevin. That name. I hadn't heard it in so long. I was slightly surprised, but nodded calmly. Let him into the waiting room. I'll be right out. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my outfit, looking at the confident, capable woman staring back. I was no longer the submissive girl I used to be. I was ready to face the past. Kevin was sitting in the waiting room, his back to the door. Hearing my footsteps, he flinched and turned around. I barely recognized him. The man in front of me was gaunt, haggard, his clothes disheveled, sporting a scruffy beard. The smug, polished look of the past was completely gone, replaced by exhaustion and destitution. Penny, he called my name, his voice hoarse. What are you doing here? I asked, my tone flat, devoid of any emotion. He stood up awkwardly, wringing his hands. I know I have no right to be here, but I'm truly out of options, Penny. He hesitated, then continued. My mom. She's very sick. The doctors say it's terminal lung cancer. We need a massive amount of money for radiation therapy just to prolong her life. I've sold everything, but it's still not enough. Can you lend me some money? I swear I'll work like a dog to pay you back. I looked at him in silence. I remembered what his mother had done to me, the curses, the cruel acts. But looking at the pathetic man before me, I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt empty. Seeing my silence, Kevin thought I was refusing. He quickly added, his voice on the verge of tears. Penny, I know I'm a piece of shit. I'm a bastard. I've lost everything. After what happened, my company fired me. Nora. She left me too. She said the baby wasn't mine. She was just scamming me. I got my karma. Penny, please, just save my mom. She's still my mother. His final confession didn't surprise me. I had guessed as much a long time ago. A guy like Kevin, once he lost his usefulness, was bound to be discarded. I let out a soft sigh. I walked over to my desk, pulled out a business card and a pen. I jotted a few lines down and handed it to him. I cannot lend you money, I said clearly. But this is the card for Dr. Evans, a top oncologist at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. I've already spoken to him. He agreed to review your mother's case. I will have the hospital bill the costs to our corporation's charity fund. You do not have to pay it back. Kevin stared at the business card, stunned, then looked up at me, unable to believe what he just heard. Why? Why would you? I'm not doing this for you, nor for your mother. I cut him off. I am doing this because of my own conscience. But remember this well, Kevin. Being merciful to wicked people is being cruel to yourself. I am helping her this one time to settle all debts between us. From this day forward, we have absolutely no connection to each other. Do not ever appear in front of me again. With that, I turned and walked straight out the door, not looking back once. I stepped out of the office building, taking a deep breath of the crisp Los Angeles evening air. The encounter with Kevin didn't shake me as I thought it would. It was like reading the last page of an old book, a book I knew every detail of, and now it was time to close it and put it on the shelf forever. I had done what I thought was right. Helping Helen wasn't about forgiveness. It was about freeing myself. I didn't want to hold on to hatred forever because it would only corrode my soul. By giving that final piece of help, I placed a clear, definitive period on the past. I paid them back for what they did to me, not with revenge, but with a difference in humanity. My new life philosophy is this: be strong enough to protect yourself, but compassionate enough not to turn into the monsters you fought. Vincent was waiting for me in the lobby. Seeing me walk out, he smiled and approached. He didn't ask about the meeting. He just gently took my hand. Are you tired? Let's go get dinner. I'm not tired, I smiled back. squeezing his hand. But I am hungry. I want a really good meal. We walked side by side down the tree-lined street. The fiery orange sunset was slowly dipping behind the high rises, signaling the end of the day. But for me, it was the dawn of a new one. I used to think my life had plunged into darkness after my failed marriage, but in that very darkness, I learned how to light my own fire. I found my strength. I found the value of independence, and I found a love I deserved. The past was left behind, just like our long shadows stretching out on the pavement. Ahead of us, the city lights were starting to twinkle open roads and a bright future waiting for us. I turned to look at Vincent. He was looking at me too, his eyes overflowing with love and trust. I knew that from now on, I would never have to walk alone again. We would walk toward the sunrise together, where happiness and peace awaited. The story of the submissive daughter-in-law had ended. A new chapter in the life of Penelope Hayes, a free and happy woman, had truly begun. My life after that was entirely unburdened by my ex-husband's family. I only heard news about them through Lily. She still occasionally caught some gossip from mutual acquaintances. Norman, my ex-father-in-law, was sentenced to 2 years in state prison for assault with a deadly weapon, plus the other charges Attorney Turner filed against him. On his court date, he looked 10 years older, completely stripped of his former domineering patriarchy. Word had it that he lived very quietly in prison, not causing trouble with anyone. Perhaps the iron bars had ground away his hot temper and violent tendencies. Helen, after receiving my help, went through a few rounds of chemotherapy. The horrific cancer ravaged her, leaving her emaciated. Her once black hair was reduced to a few sparse strands, but what killed her faster than the disease was the guilt and humiliation. Her husband was in prison, her son was unemployed, her daughter was disgraced, her family was shattered, and their relatives shunned them. She no longer dared to brag to the neighbors, nor did she have anyone to cry and complain to. She lived her final days in a cramped, damp, cheap apartment with Kevin and Mia. The lung cancer took her life about 6 months later. On the day she died, only her 2 children stood by her side. A quiet, empty funeral ended a life full of calculation and bitterness. Mia, after the shock of losing her mother and the collapse of her family, seemed to change as well. She no longer dressed up or partied like before. She had to work as a line worker in a garment factory to earn money to help her brother. Her hard life taught her a lesson that no school ever could. Sometimes, Lily would tell me someone saw Mia sitting alone at a roadside coffee stand, staring blankly into the distance. No one knows what she was thinking. Perhaps she was regretting the things she had done. As for Kevin, he bore the heaviest consequences. He lost his wife, his job, his reputation, his mother, and his father was in prison. He had to work all sorts of odd jobs to survive, from driving an Uber to doing heavy lifting at the wholesale market. The burden of paying off his debt to me and taking care of his sister weighed heavily on his shoulders. He no longer had time to play video games, nor the mental energy to think about chasing women. Life had dealt him a series of brutally painful slaps, forcing him to grow up in the most unwanted way possible. He still regularly pays his debt to me every month, never missing a cent. Every time I get a text notification about the transfer, I don't feel happy. I just let out a sigh. Karma might arrive late, but it never misses an appointment. I don't gloat over their downfall. I just see it as the inevitable law of cause and effect in life. You reap what you sow. They wrote their own tragic ending. As for me, I have completely stepped out of that vortex of grudges. My heart is at peace and light. Ladies and gentlemen, after being kicked out of my own house by my mother-in-law 18 times, I finally stood up and took everything back. No more tears, only the freedom and courage of a woman. If you have ever been looked down upon, remember that silence is not submission, but the beginning of change. Thank you for following today's story. Don't forget to like, subscribe to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming stories. Goodbye and see you next time. Yeah.